Hey everyone. So I hope you still have energy for one last presentation, and I guess it's good as well. If you're here, you probably have that energy. So first a little bit about me. So my name is Marcus. I work as a developer at Freely Give, Jamie's company, where I focus a lot on AI. And that's something I have been focusing on basically since ChatGPT was released. And especially working actually together with Drupal. I have a Drupal background that goes back way back to 4.6, I think. But I have had the longest period where I actually didn't work with Drupal at all. So I am the main contributor of the module that I will talk about today, the AI Interpolator module. I'm also then one of the contributors of this AI module that some of you might have heard Jamie talk about. First of all, I'm going to showcase a little bit of how you set up the AI Interpolator, but if you actually want to see videos of how you do this, you can go to this website, Workflows of AI. This QR code is actually created by a Drupal website using Workflows of AI. So this is actually a chain creating this QR code. I'm not very good at using Stable Diffusion, so this is supposed to be Bulgarian patterns, but yeah. So I'm gonna start off with the most complex automation chain and basically talk about a real use case that could be a real scenario where you could save a lot of time. So I don't know, raise of hands, how many went to Jamie's AI presentation, the general one? Okay. So what he presented there was, or showed was that you could use a PDF of some kind of cookbook or something, upload this and create structured data of this. So I'm just going to take this a little bit further. So imagine this use case. You have some food influencer on YouTube. He or she recorded like 500 videos cooking, and all of a sudden that person comes to you, hey, I want a website. Can you create that for me? You create a website, so we're going to use Umami in this case. Very, very useful that it exists. And you start counting on this, and all of a sudden you realize, you know, if you're going to sit there and actually watch the video, start typing out all the ingredients in there, how to do it, the preparation time, and so on, maybe it takes 30 minutes per video, right? And then all of a sudden on an 8-hour day, you're up to 30 days of work. So we want to automate this. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take this as an example. Joshua Weissman, he's a famous food influencer. He's, in this case, he's doing pad thai. I'm just gonna show you here first how it would, normally work. So if someone has to sit and watch this video, start filling out preparation time, cooking time, number of servings, difficulty, setting tags, setting categories, finding somewhere in this video where there is an actual image that you can use to upload, write summaries, ingredients, and so on. But what we have done here is we've used the AI Interpolator instead and set it up in such a way that we can just give a name and a video, and that's it. It's going to take care of everything. So I'm just going to click Save here, and I'm going to showcase how this works now then. This is going to take some time because it needs to do this. So all the green fields here are stuff that the user sees, and in between these fields then there are rules. So that's the brown thing you see here. While the red thing are fields that we just use for storage, so like a middle layer. Because what we want to do, the first thing we have to do in this chain, right, is to take this YouTube URL and download it into a local video. So that's the only step that we have to do that a human doesn't have to do, because you can sit and watch it on YouTube. You don't necessarily need to do that, but we need to start processing it locally then. So this is the first rule that the AI Interpolator is doing. The second rule is this. We prompt it, go through the whole video and find a screenshot that showcases the whole dish when it's finished. and put that into the media image. And this, I can say right away, actually. I Googled this morning. This doesn't exist anywhere except here. So OpenAI can't actually take a video. So this is Drupal taking care of this. This is this rule taking care of this in a smart fashion. I don't have time to explain how it works. The code is out there, so you can just look at the solution for this. In similar fashion, it also needs to both look at the video and listen to the video. So what is he saying? Because he might say instructions on how to do it, right? So it's watching the video, looking at the video for signs of instructions, measurements, how long time stuff takes, and so on. And we're just putting that in a big text field. So not a formatted text field, just a normal text long. And from there, when we have it there, it's easy just to branch out to every field. So basically have a rule for each field. So if you take the directions, that has to be in a bullet point form, for instance, right? So give directions how to answer that. Ingredients is a little bit special because there was single text fields where you fill out each of the ingredients. So that's a case where we have to take one text and create many. Yeah, you don't see it down here, but there is recipe categories here. So it actually needs to figure out, based on the categories that you have here, which category does this fit into. Preparation time is a little bit special, and this might not be the best answer from AI, because basically what you're asking it, unless they say preparation time in the video or it's somewhere in like some video information, try to figure out, try to use your logic to think how long this would take. On the other hand, you would have to ask a human this as well, and most likely you're not going to use this guy, Joshua Weissman, to actually figure out the preparation time. So that person might also not know, right? So that is how that works. I can just show you here how you set up these stuff. So when you add a field, if you happen to have a plugin that has a rule that fits that field, there's going to be a checkbox on the field API. So when you set up a new field type that says enable AI interpolator. And after that, you're going to get a drop down where you can choose different things. So in here, we could also create an image if we want to. So find a description and create the image. Because it's a media, you have to say what type of media it is. So it's an image. It's running base mode, and then you have to say, where do I base this on? And that's the video file in this case. And then there is just this prompt here. Maybe I need to zoom in. This is a video of a person cooking or baking something. Cut out one image where the finished product is in view and looking nice for our recipe website. So that's basically all you have to do to get images. And this can also, by the way, get multiple images. So if you need 10 images of different shots, you can just prompt that here. So yeah, it's taking some time. So we just continue while this is running here. I'm going to keep the YouTube video up and running there still so we can compare it. So before I go into what the actual AI interpolator is, I just want to talk about a little bit what are the problems when you're doing automation and put AI into the mix, because it's very different than normal automation. So yeah, first of all, before I start talking about this, I have been working with this 1.5 years now. I did some, supervised machine learning, YOLO, that kind of stuff before. So I have worked with what was called AI before ChatGPT happened. But the generative AI, to actually create a model there, I have no experience whatsoever. So this is more talking about experience integrating AI rather than actually being an AI expert. So the first problem is that generative AI is extremely creative. And this is a huge problem when you're doing automation. So you might have heard different versions of this, like it kind of sucks because it can take away very funny jobs, like a designer or, I don't know, writing music or something. But then when you ask it to do the tax return, the AI says, no, I can't do that. That's very unsafe. So as soon as there's something boring, it doesn't want to do it, right? And the problem is, or it is creative in the sense that it's super good for ideation, right? So if you're asking it, can you give me 100 examples of tweets that I can tweet about this subject, it's going to give you that back in like 20 seconds. And there's no human that can ever do that. So it's super good at that. It's not good at quality creative stuff yet, but it is very creative. And this is a way that you can basically prompt it to understand a little bit how it works in the background. So if you ask like these 5 words, what do you see in common between those? It's very easy to see right away. All of them start with A. And ChatGPT sees it as well, because it's trained on a lot of training data that connects A to this word. So if you think about a dictionary, it has an index connecting A to American. If there's fiction and someone stutters, for instance, they might write this as American. So there's connection there as well when it's training on that. Or children's books, like A as an American. But do the same and ask about the second letter. And what happens? It has no clue what you're talking about, because there's no training data on this. And what happens? So first of all, ChatGPT then, it is application, right? It's not direct communication with the LLM. You can't talk directly to OpenAI's LLM. Also, when you use the API, you don't have direct access. So they have all these kind of layers in between where it's trying to figure out, can I answer this without, lying or making up something? Because in the end, the text LLM wants to create text. That's what it wants to do. It wants to read text and generate text. But sometimes when a question is very open like this, it passes through. And then if you look at this answer, it says it all contains the sequence of letters O and P, which is not true for Spanish. There is no O in Spanish. So all of a sudden you have this problem. So this is actually a academic paper that came a couple of days ago that was investigating if ChatGPT is so-called soft bullshit or hard bullshit, but it was clear that it was bullshitting. So basically, is it doing it on purpose? Because you can argue that OpenAI releasing a product that is sounding truthful can be deceitful. So, but yeah, it didn't really come to a conclusion. So hallucinations, you usually call this, right? And first of all, this is not a bug. This is an inherent feature of large language models. So this is not going away. There might be control mechanisms in the apps that stops this, but the actual large language model, that is going to keep it, because that's what keeps it creative. Because there's no difference about, making up something as in a lie, as in making up Lord of the Rings, which is super that someone made up, right? It's just being creative. There's a very simple solution that's known to this, and this is usually what you call RAG then, but you can also put it right into a chat, right? So you can ask it like, here is a context, only answer on this and nothing else. Because then the LLM is super. So you just give it context. You also give it boundaries, like you're only allowed to answer within this. So that's the first problem. The other problem is the method that it's using. So, they are not deterministic like coding is, or a database or something. There can be stochastic, and what we're trying to do is to make them probabilistic at least. So it's giving a probable answer. So this thing will never go wrong unless something happens with the CPU or memory or something. It's just going to answer true. If you ask it random output and you still try to be like, hey, please only answer yes or no to these questions, it still will answer sometimes like, yes, it seems like Marcus was talking about AI, or sure, I can answer this. The answer is yes. And then if you're going to go on this output and do something using PHP. It's very hard because you will have to start like looking for the answer in there. So this is basically how you do it for probabilistic output. What you're going to do is you're going to ask to wrap it into a RFC 8259 compliant JSON. This is very important because those tokens connects it to this token space of generating a JSON. And then you also use what is called one-shot or few-shot learning, where you give it examples like, this is how I would answer. And the good thing, there's two good things with this. So one good thing then is, of course, that when it answers, it's just going to be a Boolean. It's just going to be true or false in this case. But more importantly, when it fails, it doesn't generate something else or lie or something like that, because it's not going to generate JSON. So you know it fails at least. And then you can retry and retry until it works. Or maybe it doesn't work, but at least it won't bullshit you. Another part when you want to chain this stuff is that one output from one service works completely than something else. So if you want to use DALL-E, OpenAI, you generate the image, you want to use Dream Studio to remove the background, for instance, because Dream Studio can do that. One spits out base64 encoded, and the other one takes binary. So you have to write some normalizers in between there, which is problematic if you want to make everything chainable with everything. You also have to do this, but this most things can do, you know, multimodal, add a lot of different inputs and create one input from it. This one is harder. So generate 3 categories of a car, and you want it to generate it at the same time. So you don't want to ask it first, generate a category of a car, and then generate the category of a color of a car that isn't green, because the first one was green. You want it to ask this directly, but that's, once again, where JSON structures is very, very good for this. Yeah, so that was the problems. Before I start with the AI interpolator, let's go back here to our pad thai, because it seems to be finished. So you can see here, it has set the main courses, Asian cuisine as a tag, dinner party, and so on. This is an image from the actual YouTube video. Number of servings and so on are correct. You have ingredients. It's really a long list, a long way to do it, but it is a really complex recipe. So all of a sudden you have gotten it fixed, automated. So yeah, the history first before I start explaining what it is. So it all started with a task in my old company that a customer that we worked with, they wanted social media analytics that was based on ChatGPT. So they had started using ChatGPT, and they came with us and they said like, hey, I put this tweet in here and I asked it about a sentiment analysis and it was super. Can you please automate this for us? And we said, yeah, sure. And because he was so enthusiastic about this, my boss got very enthusiastic about this. So he said, yeah, and Marcus, of course, it has to be white label and reusable, and you have to use GUI for it. And yeah, okay. So when you were talking about AI in the beginning of ChatGPT, there was only one solution, and that was using Python and using LangChain. So I worked with Python historically, so it's not a problem. So I started looking into CMSs, into Django, so some kind of framework. And it got kind of complicated. And I realized also LangChain was, at least at this time, it had problems because of this output and input thing, that one output didn't fit into the next input. So you had to create normalizers, which meant that you had to create code in between there, which meant that it might be hard to actually do this in GUI. So because I worked with Drupal, I just realized, hey, let's base this on the Drupal field API. Because then you have a middle storage that is well-defined. It's extremely well-defined. Complex fields, an address field, for instance, it's extremely well-defined in the address field module, how an address field takes the street name. or takes the postal code or whatever. So it was the perfect tool for it, because the rest of it, Drupal is super for, just creating a dashboard where you can search for sentiment analysis and stuff. That's simple stuff in views, right? First of all, I just created something with a service called Scraping Bot that can scrape behind social media and OpenAI, and you could just chain OpenAI in different prompts. But then, you don't see this, but basically my boss came in and he had so many crazy ideas, so all of a sudden he said, a customer, they wanted a mood board. So if you don't know what a mood board is, it's basically images that explains like the mood for the day for a company. So if everyone was shitting on a company, it would basically show a lot of red images and like, this is not good. And if everyone was praising the company, it would show a lot of green images and so on. And then I realized, why not use this for any field API? It doesn't just have to be text and OpenAI. You can create images with this. We can create anything with this, right? So that's how the AI Interpolator came to be. So we actually had it used in production for a customer before it was released, because what I asked my boss after that was basically that I'm 100% certain there's going to come a solution for Drupal for this. I don't want to switch over to another solution, or we have to take this decision. Should we use that, or should we continue using our stuff? Can I open source it? Because the knowledge of how you use it was more important than the actual code, because the code was not that complex. So he said yes, luckily, and that's why it's open source now. Then a while later, we needed conditionals also. If this was generated, then it should not be published and so on. So we added ECA there into the mix as well. But I'm going to come to that later. So what does it solve then? It can control generative AI. And it both actually solves the interpolation problem and the extrapolation problem. It can be, give it this context and stay within this context, but it can also, in theory, it could generate at its current status a whole website for you from a single prompt. I will say that right away, don't do this, you will kill internet by doing this. This creates the worst possible content ever. But it's a very good way of doing ideation. You want to show a customer how the website could look because you have done the design. You just need some content in there. Use it for that, for instance. It can take the context to make it truthful. What it can also do is post-processing truthfulness checks. So if you take the thing with the address module, what you can do, for instance, is look into this free text, like web page or something, look for physical locations and give me those back. So you ask OpenAI to do this, but then the things that you get back, it checks against Google Places API, because that's how a human would do it. They would read the text and, maybe we should check so this is still open on Google Maps. So that's the same thing, basically. It solves the structure problem, or Drupal solves the structure problem for it. So that's what it got for free, because Drupal existed. So it knows exactly how to input and output for every type of field. It's chainable, of course. So it's just working from field to field, and it has like a weight. So if the weight is low, it starts with this rule. If the weight is high, it ends with the rule. And the only configuration that you ever will have to do with the AI Interpolator, it's on the field configuration page. There is no other configurations, adding API keys, maybe. It's kind of intuitive, because when you want to do automation, just think about how would I ask a junior that has no domain knowledge about this to do this. Those steps is what you want to put in there. So this is basically what it's doing. And it's flexibility. So it's not solving one thing. It's a build your own AI tool, basically. So any automation you can come up with, or even editorial process, or what you want to use it for, ideation, you can do on it. So let's do another chain then. So what we're going to do in this case but this time I'm also going to showcase it. So there is this website, like these are my top 10 London restaurants if money were no object, that has the names of them, but that's it. There's no address here, right? So what we're going to do now is this. We're just going to put this link in. I have to put in a title because it's a node. And I'm just going to click save here. And it's going to find the addresses to this and put it on a Google Maps. So I will show you how this works while this happens. So this is based on fields, right? We start with the source link. This doesn't have any AI, but this is required, of course. Then you have an address field. And then you just click here. There is this text address finder rule that can find text for you. And then you have a prompt. From the content text, find all restaurants that exist that can be plotted on Google Maps and give them back as something that would give a credible answer in Google Maps. The city should be possible to get from the title, node title. Oh yeah, I used the node title because London, it says London in the title actually. And then the context is the actual article. And then, oh yeah, I forgot the step before, sorry. The step before is that we just use the simple crawler to crawl this website. But it actually has very advanced settings, and it has a very smart thing. So first of all, you can use this on localhost because it's running Guzzle. You can do authentication, you can do basic auth, cookies, whatever you want there. So you could use this as a full migration tool, actually. You have a WordPress site where you want to migrate everything to Drupal, can do it, even if it's behind basic auth or something. But the coolest thing is this one. So how do we crawl it? You can get the raw dump of the whole HTML. You can get the HTML selector, so that's just on the DOM, you like select something specific. But then it has the readability, and this is super good for AI. So this is Firefox readability. So if you use Firefox and go to article, you can usually click like, hey, I just want to read the article. I don't want to see all the graphics and stuff. This does the same thing with this tool. It just takes out the text of the actual website and doesn't keep all the HTML that just costs money when you send it to AI. And then you get something like this. So it plots it on a map. I don't know which one of this is the Ritz, but you can see, well, I guess you have to trust this, but if you go to that website, I show you workflows or AI, it's going to show you how to do this, and then you can try for yourself, and you will see these are correct results. So then, yeah, how it works, you probably understand now. It's field-to-field changes just. So it is plugin based. So it means if from all the modules that exist, it's failing something or missing something that you need, you can just write your own plugin. It's just one actual file you need to do to create your own rule. And in the current annotations I think I still use, you have to declare what field it can populate. So that's why it shows up under rules. And then you can declare what kind of context or field it can use, including tokens then, so you can use pretty advanced input from many, many fields. Soon it's going to support vector searches as well. This means that so say that you're Apple, you upload all your marketing material about iPhones and stuff. Then you could, say something like, hey, you upload images. Hey, create me a hero section here with a good image that represent good environmentalism, and write a text about it using our language and using our marketing material. So you don't have to give it something, you just give it a prompt and it will be able to do this. The logic is super simple. It populates when it's not populated. So if something goes wrong, you can just resave again and hope it saves that time then. But that also means that even if you have a rule there and you think you're better than the AI, which is usually true, you can also just type it in there and the AI doesn't take it over. And it has waits to control when something is triggered. It does have processor plugins as well. So this means that you can, of course, have it saved directly when you click on this save entity, save node, whatever. The problem is then if you have a long chain and you have a short timeout on your web server, it might time out before it's finished. So because of that, you can choose to do it via batch API. You can choose to do it via queue API, so it runs on cron, or if you invoke the queue yourself. There is a thing where you can do OB flush. So basically, if you have an API, it can respond that it has a status of that it starts working, and Nginx or Apache is finished there, but the PHP process continues running the actual thing. Or you can let the ECA use it. I don't know, do people know ECA here? So yeah, it's basically a tool where you can set like conditionals, or how many people knows rules? Yeah, that was a lot more. So it's basically rules on steroids, much better GUI, better everything, can do a lot of stuff. And it has conditionals, which is the important thing there, because the AI Interpolator doesn't have that then. And as you've seen this already with address, right? It has custom fields as well, which means that you can do stuff like FAQ. So you have an article and you ask it like, hey, can you create me 10 questions that someone probably wants to answer, have answer on, and it creates this in the FAQ field and so on. It's over 120 rules now, I think. It can run over 100,000 AI models, but that's mostly due to Hugging Face being like 99,000 of those. And it has 25 services now, maybe. So these are the stuff that you can use to build rules. So you have stuff like SERP API, for instance. So if you want to do SEO-optimized meta tags, this can actually go out and search for you in some specific locale, in some specific language, on some specific Google. How do my competitors write about this? What am I missing? It can go into Wikipedia, look for stuff. It can scrape in all possible ways. Yeah, it has a lot of stuff there. You basically have to go to the AI Interpolator's web page, because there's more stuff than I can talk about what it can do. Yeah, it can do private and fine-tuned models. So this is me in front of the Eiffel Tower as Stable Diffusion 1.4 things. So this is a really old model. That's why it's not the best quality. So I just tried to fine-tune. So fine-tuning, for the people who don't know it, is basically where you take a model that already exists, that does something, and you teach it just one new thing, basically, especially when it comes to images. So in this case, the new thing is Marcus Johansson. How do I generate him? So you can use that. You can run local models. And it's based then upon rules. And there are a lot of different rules here. So for instance, then, the easiest one, so this starts from easy to very complicated. So take a text and follow a prompt to generate a text. But even that one is not maybe super simple, because you still have to do stuff like making sure that it's actually text getting generated. Or in the example that, hey, I want 10 different LinkedIn posts, then it has to create 10 different texts and so on. It is completely multimodal. It can listen to audio, it can generate audio, it can look at videos. It can create presentation videos. So basically you take a photo of a face, give it an audio file, and that person starts talking. It doesn't look very nice. It's a service called DID. And I think maybe the most important service there is unstructured I/O. So what unstructured I/O can do, and this is a reason just to install the AI Interpolator by itself, is that it can take almost any unstructured format and create HTML or Markdown from it, and almost any unstructured file. So you can take a PowerPoint, and if you want that in Markdown, it does it. You can take a PDF, and if you want that in Markdown, it does it. You can take Excel, you can take text file, CSV file. So many different files it can take, basically, and go from unstructured to structured. And it's also an open source project that you can host yourself. So it's not that you have to pay some third-party service, even if you can do that for ease of use then, of course. So the scraping, for instance, has full web page scraping, website scraping, if you want to do that. So you can basically go to one website and start looking for links, and then it starts scraping down. If you want to, for instance, migrate the old website. Of course, be careful when you do this on other sites. It follows all the stuff that actual scraper follows. So it has wait time in between of each, and it looks at the robots.txt and so on. You can, of course, disable this, but be nice to whoever you scrape. Because of Dream Studio and some other stuff, it has all kinds of stuff that you can do to images. So one thing is that you can remove backgrounds, right? But for instance, if you have a really good image that you want to fit into a specific ratio, but it's so small that you can't crop it anymore, what it can do is something called outpainting. You take this and you give it a prompt what you want on the sides, and then it generates this. So it's still your image with some generations on the side. That is mostly background, so so no one cares about that, I think. The most advanced is similar to what I showed before. You take a video and generates in a CK editor a whole web page around this. So it cuts out images, does headers, tells a whole story based on your prompt about how to create this, basically. There is this link. I need to document better there, where you can find all the available rules. So just look for the AI Interpolator documentation. And you can see which fields it fills out, which module you have to use. So the core module itself doesn't do anything. If you install AI Interpolator, nothing is going to happen. You need to start downloading modules that implements rules, basically. So, oh, yeah, before I do this one, I'm just going to showcase another simple way of understanding unstructured to structured content. Yeah, I mean, it was probably pretty clear from the recipe thing, but this is very small. So you have a title that's Burgas Free University, and the text, wait, let me zoom in here. Is that readable? You can read this? Yeah. We are located somewhere on something, San Stefano, and we are open Mondays to Tuesday 9 to 17 and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I try to make it really hard for it to understand stuff now. In 1994, we had 1,000 students. Later, it's written 1,000 with text. Later in 2000, we had 2,000. In 2010, we had 2,432, right? And then we have the office hours field here. We have the address field. We have a category field, and we have a chart field. So we're just going to run this now. I'm going to show how this is built. So this is no chain. Everything can run on the same time, right? So when you have a taxonomy term, you basically just give it all the different terms that you can set and say, hey, this is the context. Choose up to max amount. In this case, only one, I think. And yeah, just set that. If you take the chart field, so from the content text, use the year and the student population as values. So it's still simple prompt. Free text description, no, that's, sorry. So the office hours is also very simple. It's just, based on the context text, return the office hours that you can find using the context. And then you get back something like this. So you actually have it structured, right? It's following the office hours module. You can see Monday to Tuesday, 9 to 17, Saturday, 10 to 15. Does a graph for you with these numbers. So it structures up everything. So yeah, that's the whole reason for this module to exist. All kind of unstructured to structured automation. But then I will just showcase as a last thing that is the complete other thing then. We're going to take something structured and make it to something unstructured. And we're going to make it multimodal as well. So I just have the Drupal Starshot here, Drupal Starshot PDF about the current progress. And I'm just going to upload this and ask AI now to create a podcast from that. So how this works is it's using this unstructured I/O to create Markdown, as I talked about before. And then there is this 11 Labs field where you can just give it a prompt, basically, of how you want to generate a conversation. Let's see, did internet die now? Anyway, let's wait for that. So while we're doing that, I can talk a little bit about the future of the AI Interpolator, because it will not be named this anymore. So the idea is that it's gonna be moved into this AI module then. And it's gonna be using the AI module's abstraction layer, which of course solves a very, very important problem, because I had started creating abstraction layer in the Interpolator where I started adding Hugging Face and Fireworks AI, so you could run other models, right? But having to add these for all the different models that exist, all the different services, all the different things you can run locally, takes forever. So now when we have the AI abstraction layer, there's just going to be a module called the AI Interpolator LLM, and that one can run any LLM. So we don't have to think about this anymore. It's also going to be part of the AI module. And there is it's going to be called the AI Automator. And the reason why we're going to add it to the AI module, outside of that it can automate a lot of stuff, that's also cool, of course. But if you create disposable entities, so meaning entities that only live while the AI Interpolator is running through automation, this means that you can expose an API that anyone can use via recipe to set up whatever AI workflow they want to use in their module. So if you want to be the one that creates a meta tag module that goes out and searches internet and compares this to what someone else has written and tells the editor, hey, this is missing, look at this link, you can use this for this, and you just have to create the front end for it. It will have widgets as well, so that's connected to this idea, and it's gonna probably be inside the AI module then. It's gonna be hopefully a easier to use UI. It's not the most intuitive thing still. So if you can see the chains, for instance, how is everything connected, that would make it a lot easier, right? Here's some extra useful links. I think we're getting short on time and this might take forever. I'm just gonna show you this prompt here, but I actually have a finished version of this as well. So you can read the prompt here. Based on the content text, create a dialogue between podcast interviewer James Spade, who is a fun-loving character, and Julia Stipe, who is a serious guest expert on the topic and answering the questions, right? So we're just creating a podcast. We're given the voices in 11 Labs in this case. It's using 11 Labs. You can train your own voices, so it could be your own voice talking here if you're interested in doing that. And then you get something like, let's see here. Oh, maybe it actually, it finished perfect on time actually. Let's listen. I hope it's enough volume here. Oh yeah, it adds music in the start as well. It can do stuff like that also, music under and stuff.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tech Talk. We're coming to you live from the Drupal Dev Days in Burgas. I'm your host, James Spade, and today we have a very special guest, Julia Stipes, an expert on Drupal Starshot. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be here and discuss the latest updates on Drupal's Starshot.
Julia, let's dive right in. Can you give our listeners an overall status update on Drupal Starshot?
Absolutely, James. Drupal Starshot aims to build a new default download of Drupal, including refined features.
You get the idea, right? It's actually based on facts.
To create a great user
So that's one way of taking something unstructured. No, sorry, taking something structured and make it that unstructured instead, which goes back to how AI can be chat interfaces and stuff like that in the future. So yeah, if you want to learn how to use it, this one, well, now you don't see it, but hopefully you took a photo before. Workflows of AI. It's very shitty production value because I use, basically when I create a feature, I start recording when I start testing it. And that's what these videos are. So sometimes there's even bugs in them, like, oh, I missed that, I have to fix this code now. But it still, gets you into the thoughts of it. So, questions? Nothing?
You mentioned that we can use batch processing and also some kind of other processing, which is implemented in Drupal ecosystem. Can we use like external processing, like it's also plugin which we can implement because of, in some cases, these processes is really CPU usage is high, so maybe some kind of external tool like some other language which we can use for processing.
Yes, I mean, do you mean a rule or do you mean the thing that processes?
It's called processor.
The processor that processes every step.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, it's in Drupal plugin system, so you can definitely write your own processor, but it has to run within PHP. Of course, if you just wrap it with one big exec or shell exec or something, that could work, depending on what external tools you use. But at least you need that code that creates the plugin system.
Okay.
So it is extendable, at least in an external module. If you want to, I don't know, do web hooks every time it triggers something, whatever, you can create your own processor for this. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a question over there.
Well, thank you, and really excellent and inspiring work you do.
Thank you.
So, I think you were testing with OpenAI LLM. Is there any big difference with using like open local LLMs, and if you would recommend one like for not using?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to separate between open and free and open source. So the amount of open source models that exist is not so big, actually. Open and free models, there exist a lot. And the biggest one of that is Llama 70B, or the most famous one at least, which has been fine-tuned and it can't solve a lot of the things that I showcased. So the video thing, for instance, that is only OpenAI and Anthropic that can do. But a lot of the things that I showed, this will be able to do. But that model is so big that unless you're a millionaire or something, you're not going to run it locally. So if you go down to what you can run on expensive gaming GPU, so a GTX 3090 or something, it can do everything that you need for your normal editorial process, I would say. But something that is very, very complex, I don't think those models will be able to handle. But they get better all the time, and they get smaller all the time. So it's just a matter of time before this happens.
Hi, thanks again for the amazing work that you are doing. One small question: do you have any plans, or do you already have something related to measuring the usage of the external services that are plugged in?
Yes.
Like internal, yeah.
So the AI module that we have been working on, there we have created this abstraction layer, right? And the idea with this whole abstraction layer is that you can run any type of operation, so not just chat. You can do text to image, image to text, text to audio, and so on. If you use this, so any module that implements, if they use this, this is going to trigger events. And with these events, it's very easy for someone to do exactly that. Like a module that can actually count costs. So this, I mean, we could discuss if it should go into the AI module, but it could be an external module as well. So as
You can always make a pull request or the merge request.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it's a very good idea to keep track of your costs, of course. Okay, then thank you very much.